Thank you, Cúrlach. I too welcome the recognition within this bill of the diverse range of families that we have in this country. And let's be clear, it's not that forward-thinking, because for decades now, in reality, there's been a diversity in family types in this country, and the bill is just recognising the reality. For example, lone parents, there's 308,000 children being raised by lone mothers, and about 44,000 children by single fathers. So in actual fact, there's almost 400,000 children being raised in this country outside of the idealised scenario that's painted by some of the critics of this bill and some of the critics of the marriage equality legislation, that there's actually many children being brought up without a father and a mother in their home. And I welcome the fact that it recognises cohabiting couples, step-parents, grandparents and relations, foster parents, and also lesbian and gay parents as well. The anti-marriage equality lobby are attacking this bill from that point of view. Let's be clear, they are linking the two. Apparently, according to some in the Iona Institute, we could have mothers ending up marrying their own daughters if the likes of this bill goes through. Apparently that could actually happen. These family formations exist already, and the idea that, you know, putting a law in place is going to somehow prevent it, or preventing a law in place is going to prevent it. If you look at Ireland in the past, actually, because of our unique history of emigration, in fact, we've had matriarchal families, we've had children raised by relatives, we've had all sorts of formations due to emigration and due to poverty that blighted this country in the past. And in actual fact, the biggest threat to the family in Ireland is the ongoing austerity and poverty that's hitting families and making it extremely difficult for them to exist in a happy and safe place with a roof over their heads. So while I welcome the bill, I would have some concerns. Unlike a couple of previous speakers, I would raise a question about automatic guardianship of a father who has lived with a woman for 12 months from the point of view, in particular, of women in domestic violence and situations. If you look at Women's Aid, have highlighted that 1 in 5 women in this country is a victim of domestic violence. So that's quite a lot of women. And what you could have with this scenario is men who are violent, who are not good fathers, having a control that they don't currently have because of being given automatic guardianships. Being in a position, for example, to prevent a woman getting passports and travel and so on for her children. And I would like people who are raising this to demonstrate that there's a problem, because I've spoken to a family solicitor today who assured me that any father that applies for guardianship in the courts gets it unless there's a real serious reason why they shouldn't. So if people are saying otherwise, I'd like them to come out and demonstrate that that's the case. And I'm raising this from a genuine concern of, take for example a woman who went into a relationship, quickly experienced violence actually from a partner. And for your information, 30% of women who experience domestic violence experience it for the first time when they're pregnant. It's actually the most dangerous time to be in such a relationship. So you could be literally with somebody when you're pregnant, and for 3 months you leave that relationship. They play no role in that child's life, but they would have automatic guardianship just because of that short experience. And so I just would raise a concern about that from the point of view of women who are in those situations. There's a lot of women who are single parents for a very good reason, because the birth father, if you like, is not a good father. And that, unfortunately, is a reality. I am not for one moment saying that men shouldn't play a role in children's lives. Absolutely, they should. And I don't think that there's any woman who would prevent somebody who's a positive influence on a child from playing that role, and there certainly isn't any court. But I would just have a concern about the automatic custody. In Britain, I think the way it is done is that somebody applies, you know, at birth, and then that's it. I would just also, I just think that there is a danger that women could again be brought under the orbit of controlling men or violent men who they're trying to escape from, using the children as they do in these situations, and then have to go to court to get the father deselected as a guardian, if you like. So I welcome the idea of a child-centred approach, and it's quite interesting that the other day in this House, a case was raised and a school cited, for example, the Stay Safe programme as being quite dangerous because it was child-centred and not in line with a Catholic ethos. And actually there is a conflict in the past where too much emphasis was given to the family staying together and not the child's interest. So I do welcome that. Again, I would just raise a concern that from the point of view of women in violent relationships, that their safety would also have to be considered as well, not just their children, and there can be conflicts there as well, and I would ask that that would be taken into account. Minister, I spoke to some family solicitors who, this is their daily work in the family courts. They raised quite a number of criticisms of the way that the bill was written. They didn't think it was clear. They thought that there was a lot of difficulties with that. But one of the issues they raised was, and which is well known, that the courts are not in a position right now to deal with all of these situations that are proposed in the bill. And there would have to be serious levels of investment. And there would also a huge backlog in free legal aid, an unbelievable backlog. So for people who don't have the means to pay for legal representation, to get the best advice, this is a serious problem.
Thank you,
just finishing. Thank you, Carla. There is just one area as well. This is a huge bill, and in 5 minutes it's not possible to deal with all of the. I do welcome that assisted reproduction is being brought into the equation. One of the things in the bill is that it only deals with children, the offspring of who are conceived, done in a clinical setting. Now, that again can raise issues for. There are a lot of people who can't afford to get in vitro fertilisation and who look at other means to do that. And I think that that exclusion, it means that they don't have a partner, doesn't have a guardianship. I do think that's something that should be looked at.